Hello, my name is John and welcome to A Long Look. Today we are exploring 10 forgotten Christmas traditions lost to history. Christmas today feels timeless. Familiar songs, familiar rituals, familiar imagery. But for most of history, Christmas looked very different. It was louder, stranger, often darker. For centuries, people across Europe and beyond celebrated Christmas with customs that now feel unsettling, chaotic, or completely alien. Some were joyful, some were symbolic, others were deeply rooted in fear, religion, and survival during the darkest time of the year. Most of these traditions didn't fade naturally. They were suppressed, outlawed, or quietly abandoned as the world changed. Today, we're taking a long look at 10 Christmas traditions that were once widespread and are now almost entirely forgotten. Number 10. The medieval Christmas pie. In medieval England, Christmas dinner wasn't turkey, it was spectacle. The centerpiece of the feast was often a massive Christmas pie, sometimes called a standing pie. These were enormous pastry constructions filled with layers of meat. Venison, beef, pork, birds, spices and dried fruit. Some were designed purely to impress. Contemporary accounts describe pies so large that musicians or even live birds were hidden inside, released dramatically when the crust was cut open. This wasn't novelty for novelty's sake. In a world of famine and scarcity, abundance was a political statement. A lavish pie demonstrated wealth, stability, and the Lord's ability to provide, a reminder of hierarchy served on a platter. As food culture changed and displays of excess fell out of favour, the Christmas pie disappeared, replaced by simpler, more domestic meals. However, it lives on in the famous nursery rhyme Sing a Song of Sixpence, with its 24 blackbirds baked in a pie. Actually, this has roots in medieval banquet theatre. Pies, with live birds, were served to surprise and entertain guests, a spectacle as much as a meal. Number 9. The Lord of Misrule. For several weeks around Christmas, order itself was inverted. In noble households across medieval Europe, a servant, sometimes chosen by lot, was appointed Lord of Misrule. He presided over feasts, games, music, and mock ceremonies. Rules were relaxed, drinking increased, social boundaries blurred. The Lord of Misrule embodied chaos, a temporary release valve in a rigid, structured society. But authorities increasingly viewed this tradition as dangerous. By the 16th century, it was criticised as immoral, disruptive, and even subversive. In England, it was formally suppressed by the Tudors. Christmas would become respectable, and misrule would be confined to history. Number 8. The Yule Goat. Long before Santa Claus, there was the Yule Goat. In Scandinavia, the goat symbolised fertility, harvest, and the returning sun. During Yule celebrations, people dressed as goats, burned straw effigies, or led goat processions through villages. In some regions, the Yule Goat delivered gifts, in others it demanded them. As Christmas spread, the goat's pagan association became uncomfortable. Over time, it was domesticated into decoration and eventually overshadowed by Santa. Today, only fragments remain, most famously the giant straw goat built each year in YULE, Sweden, and frequently burnt down, a relic of a much older winter world. Number 7. Apple Wassailing. Christmas wasn't just about celebration, it was about survival. In rural England, farmers performed apple wassailing, a ritual intended to ensure a good harvest in the coming year. Traditionally, it was done on the 12th night of Christmas. They gathered in orchards at night, singing, shouting, banging pots, and pouring cider onto tree roots. Sometimes bread or toast, soaked in ale was hung in branches as offering. The noise was meant to wake the trees or scare away evil spirits. Either way, failure to wassail risked famine. As agriculture modernised and folk belief declined, wassailing faded, though small revivals still occur today, stripped of their original urgency. Number 6. The Christmas Eve Ghost Hour. For much of Europe, Christmas Eve was not comforting, it was dangerous. Folk belief held that at midnight the boundary between worlds thinned, spirits walked freely, animals spoke, the dead returned. In parts of Germany, Scandinavia and Eastern Europe, people stayed indoors after dark, avoided crossroads and extinguished lights. Christmas was holy, but holiness could be frightening. Those beliefs declined with urbanization and scientific thinking, but they reveal something important. Christmas was once a night of awe and fear, not just warmth and cheer. 2 centuries later, Charles Dickens, steeped in this lineage, wove these ancient motifs into A Christmas Carol, giving us perhaps the most endearing Christmas ghost story in Western literature. Number 5. Obligatory feasting of the poor. Charity at Christmas was not optional. In medieval society, lords were expected, socially and religiously, to open their halls to the poor during the Christmas season. Food was distributed publicly. Refusing hospitality damaged reputation and could provoke unrest. This was not generosity as we understand it today, it was obligation. As feudal systems collapsed and poverty became institutional rather than personal, this tradition disappeared, replaced by charities, workhouses, and eventually the modern welfare state. Number 4. The 12-day Yule log. The Yule log was not decorative, it was functional, ritual, and symbolic. A massive log was brought into the home and burned continuously across the 12 days of Christmas. Its ashes were kept for protection against fire, lightning, and misfortune. Letting the log extinguish early was considered an omen. As homes changed and fireplaces shrank, the tradition became impractical, reduced to a dessert or decoration. But originally, the fire itself was sacred. Though I will admit I do prefer our Yule log, especially with cream. Number 3. Advent fasting and Christmas excess. For much of Christian history, Christmas feasting only made sense because it followed deprivation. Advent involved fasting, limited meals, and abstinence, similar to Lent. Christmas Day was explosive by comparison. Meat, fat, alcohol, sugar. Everything forbidden returned at once. Modern Christmas kept the feast. It lost the fast, and with it, the dramatic emotional contrast that once defined the season. Number 2. Mumming and guising. Masked figures knocking on your door in winter was once normal. Mummers performed short plays involving death, resurrection, and mock combat. They demanded food or drink as payment. Their anonymity mattered. Masks allowed people to temporarily escape identity, class, and consequence. However, authorities increasingly feared disorder and criminality. By the 18th century, mumming was restricted or banned in many areas. Christmas became quieter, more controlled. Number 1. When Christmas was almost erased entirely. Christmas feels ancient, inevitable, as though it has always existed, untouched, surviving every age unchanged. But for a time, that simply wasn't true. In the 16th and 17th centuries, the entire tradition of Christmas came under direct attack, not because people had stopped believing in it, but because powerful authorities believed it should not exist at all. The first cracks appeared during the Protestant Reformation in the early 1500s. Across Europe, reformers began to denounce Christmas as a Catholic convention, unsupported by scripture and corrupted by excess. Feasting, music, Role reversal and public celebration were no longer seen as joyful expressions of faith, but as dangerous remnants of superstition and disorder. Nowhere was this more forcefully pursued than in England. In 1644, Parliament banned Christmas church services. 3 years later, in 1647, Christmas Day itself was officially abolished. Shops were ordered to open as normal, churches were all closed, soldiers were sent into towns to break up feasts and confiscate food. People were fined, arrested, or publicly shamed for celebrating in defiance of the law. For 13 years, an entire generation grew up with no legal Christmas. Scotland's experience was even longer. Following the Scottish Reformation in 1560, Christmas was outlawed outright. Celebrating it could lead to church discipline or fines, and the day was treated as an ordinary working day by law. Christmas would not be legally restored in Scotland until 1712, over a century and a half later. Across the Atlantic, the same ideas took hold in the New World. In Puritan Massachusetts, Christmas was banned between 1659 and 1681. Feasting, decorating, or gift-giving on Christmas Day became punishable by fine. Churches remained open, but Christmas was deliberately ignored, stripped of ritual and public meaning. What was being targeted wasn't simply a religious holiday. What reformers were trying to erase was an older Christmas, a season of communal obligation, enforced generosity, music, disguise, misrule, and temporary social inversion. Medieval Christmas challenged hierarchy. It demanded hospitality. It blurred the lines of authority, and that made it dangerous. When Christmas returned in England with the restoration of the monarchy in 1660, it never fully came back as it had been. Much of the older tradition was lost, suppressed, or quietly forgotten. The Christmas we recognise today would be rebuilt centuries later, especially in the Victorian era, calmer, moralised, domestic, and controlled. For a moment in history, Christmas did not fade away, it was deliberately erased. And the fact that it survived at all is not inevitability, it is resistance. Christmas has never been a single thing. It has been feared, controlled, celebrated, banned, and reinvented. Many of its oldest traditions didn't disappear because they failed, but because the world no longer needed them, wanted them, or trusted them. Yet traces remain in our songs, our rituals, and our instinct to gather light in the darkest season. Please join me again next time on A Long Look, and from my family to yours, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and wishing you all a prosperous New Year. Take care.